Hi everyone, my name is Daud and today I want to talk to you about chapter 1, The Boy Who Broke the Bank. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Broke the Bank, a story by Ruskin Bond. So we are going to see important points that we need to keep in mind, points to remember. This story is written by Ruskin Bond. Okay. Main characters of the story: Nathu, the sweeper boy. Sweeper. The meaning of the word sweeper is जो झाड़ू लगाता है, the cleaner, the person who is responsible for cleaning. Seth Govind Ram, the bank owner. He is the owner of a bank that we have in the story. I know you have gone through this story before. We are just revising it today. We are just having, we are going to discuss these points to remember. Sita Ram, the washerman's son. He is the laundry boy. He is the son of the washerman. Then we have Mrs. Prakash, Mrs. Bhushan, and Mr. Kishore. These are main characters in this story. The story begins with an interaction between Nathu and Sita Ram. So the story began, this boy Nathu, who is a sweeper, he had a conversation with his friend Sita Ram, who is a laundry guy, who is the son of the washerman. So they are having this conversation, and Nathu tells him that he has been working for the bank, he has been a sweeper boy there, but he hasn't received his salary for the last 2 months, and he's very upset about it, and he's sharing this sorrow with his friend Sita Ram, and Sita Ram wanted to help him. So Sita Ram wanted to help Nathu. For this, then Sita Ram, since he is a laundry boy, he goes from home to deliver the washed and clean clothes. That's the part of his job, that's the part of his duty. So with clean clothes in his hands, he has gone to the house of this lady named as Mrs. Prakash, which we discussed, and he overheard Mrs. Prakash was telling somebody in the house that it's very difficult these days to hire a sweeper boy. And then that's when Sita Ram decided to help his friend Nathu. He said, I know somebody who will be very happy to take this job. His name is Nathu and he works for this bank and he wants to quit the job from there. Mrs. Prakash was shocked and she asked, why does he want to leave the job? Sita Ram said, because he has not been receiving his salary. Mrs. Prakash was again shocked. How come is this that Mr. What's the name of the guy? Seth Govind Ram. Mr. Govind Ram, how come he is not giving the salary? She was shocked and she conveyed this message to her friend Mrs. Bhushan, and she conveyed this message, and Mrs. Bhushan conveyed this to her husband. So from one to the other, from first to second, second to third, third to fourth, what happened? Ladies spread the word. So everybody knew about it, what was going on, and when the information was passing from one person to the other, everyone kept on adding some of their own mirchi masala, and that's when it kept becoming worse and worse. Alright, when Mrs. Prakash told Mrs. Bhushan, she told her in a normal way, but when Mrs. Bhushan told the information, passed on the information to her husband, she added something to it. Instead of 2 months, she said 3 months. For 3 months, the boy hasn't received his salary. And then the person who is the husband of Mrs. Bhushan, Mr. Kishore, he said to his friend, and then it reached to the barber shop, and there are always so many people at the barber shop, and once anything has been discussed at the barber shop, it is most likely to circulate in the market and everybody will soon get to know about it. So what we learn from here is that point number 1, when you go to a barber shop, never ever discuss any important matter, any family matter, any personal matter with your barber or with anyone at the barber shop. Okay, children? And what happened? People started to get angry. Everyone disappointed with the bank. They were all disappointed with the bank and they wanted their money back. They thought that the bank has gone bankrupt and Mr. Seth Govindram has gone bankrupt, and they all wanted their money back now. And they were demanding their money, and they were standing outside the bank protesting and demanding and throwing stones. And this all chaos took place just in one day, because the message which was conveyed was incomplete, incorrect. Okay, so because of all this happened, and people wanted to take out all their money from the bank. The innocent boy Nathu never knew that all this chaos may take place with just information that he had shared with his friend. So what did we learn from the story? We learned a very important lesson. All right, it's about conveying the message. When you convey a message, it should be concise, clear, and complete, because the message that you have conveyed, the message that you are going to convey, if it is not complete, if it is giving the wrong information, it may create confusion in people. So when the message is not, when the message conveyed is incomplete, it may lead to conflicts. So please make sure that when you hear an information, you cross-check it, and you double-check it before you pass it on to others. Okay, let's discuss the question and answer now. Why was Sita Ram happy? He was glad. Answer: he was glad that he had been of help to both a customer and his friend. He was happy because he thought he could be of help to both his friend and the customer. His friend Nathu was looking for the job, and his customer also wanted to hire somebody. So he helped them both, and he helped them both meet. And that's why he was feeling happy, he was feeling glad that I could help both of them. Who converted the small incidents into rumor? The answer of this question you can find on page number 2. So who was the person who is responsible? We can see in the story Mrs. Bhushan was responsible because she added some extra information. She added some mirchi masala which she shouldn't have. The truth was 2 months, and she said 3 months when she conveyed the information to her husband. How did the manager calm down the situation? So when everybody was protesting outside the bank, how did the manager calm down the situation? Let's see the answer. By declaring that the bank had plenty of money, that they could withdraw all they wanted the next morning. So he declared that the bank can repay, bank can give the money back to all the people, and all of them can withdraw the money next morning, and the bank still has that money with it. How did Faiz Hussain reacted? Faiz Hussain was so startled. This person was the barber in the story, and when he heard the news, he accidentally, what he did was so startled that his hand shook, his hand started to shake, and he nicked his customer's right ear. He accidentally put a cut on the right ear of the customer. Answer these questions. Reference to context. I heard they have stopped paying their employees. No salary for over 3 months. What information does the speaker share with the listener? The speaker, Mrs. Bhushan, informs Mr. Jugal Kishore that Seth Govindram's bank was going bankrupt. See question number 2. How did the speaker gather this information? The information that we discussed in the previous question, how did the speaker gather that information? Let's find out. Mr. Prakash told Mrs. Prakash told Mrs. Bhushan that Seth Govind Ram's bank did not pay his employee properly because the bank may not have enough money. Mrs. Bhushan immediately wanted to share the information with her husband. So that's how the speaker gathered the information. What effect did the information have on the listener? This information created an effect on the minds of the listener. And what was that effect? Let's find out in the answer. The moment Mr. Jugal Kishore heard the news, he called out to the keeper of the barber shop next door. So as he got to know, he instantly passed on this information to the owner of the barber shop, to the keeper of the barber shop. Why was Nathu, the sweeper boy, annoyed? We see in the beginning of the story, this boy Nathu is annoyed. He is disappointed. He is sad. And why he is sad? Let's find out. Nathu, the sweeper boy in the bank, was annoyed because he had not even received his regular pay for 2 months. How did news about the bank change from Mrs. Prakash's telling to Mrs. Bhushan's? How did the news change? You know the exact news, but it got changed later. How did that happen? Let's find out. Mrs. Prakash informed Mrs. Bhushan that Seth Govind Ram's bank was not being able to pay its employees, including Nathu, for 2 months. Mrs. Bhushan concluded that it must have gone bankrupt. So it was the conclusion, personal opinion of Mrs. Bhushan that the bank might have gone bankrupt. She then told her husband and others that the bank had not paid its employees for 3 months. The information was for 2 months and there was nothing like bankruptcy. But she said 3 months and she added bankruptcy. This is how the news about the bank changed from Mrs. Prakash's telling to Mrs. Bhushan. So here we have finally received the answer of the question. How did the barber and his customer react to the news about the bank? What words in paragraph 17 tell you that the customer was more worried about his money than his injury? So there was a scene in the story when this barber had received the news. His hands started to shake and he accidentally cut the right ear of the customer. And the customer is not worried about the injury, he is more worried about the money that he has with the bank, because he thinks that the bank is going bankrupt, which is a lie, which was complete false. Faiz Hussain, the barber was startled to hear the news about the bank, that his hands shook and he nicked his customer's right ear. The customer, an elderly gentleman, yelled with pain and distress. Pain because of the cut and distress because of the news he had just heard. With one side of a neck still unshaved, he ran out of the shop to general store where there was a telephone. This line shows that the customer was more worried about his money than his injury. What incident in the story reflected the madness of the town at its peak? So in the story, when we were going through the story and when we revised the story, we got to know that the whole town went crazy. And why did that happen? And can we try to find out the level of it? So let's see the answer of this question. The incident of the entire town gathering at the bank and demanding their money, threatening to break, and reflects the madness of the town at its peak. So they were all angry and they went mad with anger. Mischief makers who had no investment in the bank had also joined the crowd. People who didn't have any account, any money with the bank, they also joined the crowd for protest, and they started making the mischief, because that's what mischief makers do. They are not good people at all. How did the manager from the bank clarify the situation? The manager tried to pacify them by declaring that the bank had plenty of money. Nobody seemed to believe him. He was trying to make everybody understand that the bank had plenty of money, but nobody was ready to believe him. They became violent and started throwing stones. This frenzied mob was ultimately dispersed off by timely police action. So police also reached there and everything was under control then. In your opinion, who was truly responsible for breaking the bank? Was it Nattu, Sitaram, the bank clerk, Seth Govindram, or the town? Give reasons for your answer. So you have gone through the story twice, okay? That day also and today also. So according to you, who is responsible for breaking the bank? Is it Nattu or Sitaram, his friend, or clerk in the bank, or Seth Govindram, the owner of the bank, or the entire town? Let's see what you have to say about this. It was Nattu who was responsible for breaking the bank. Nattu had complained to Sitaram, the washerman's son, about the irregular payment of his salary. In his idle conversation with Mrs. Prakash, Sitaram mentioned that the bank could not pay its employees. Mrs. Prakash informed her friend, Mrs. Bhushan, who immediately concluded that the bank had gone insolvent. From Mrs. Bhushan, the rumor spread across the town like wildfire. So this is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you very soon again. God bless you.